baby mamas, baby daddies, parents in general, y'all gotta understand your emotions does not come before your child's emotions. You gotta humble yourself. When your kid wants something, whether it's more time or if they want something specific with the other parent, you gotta honor that. Don't traumatize your kid or hurt them or make them feel like their voice is not heard because of your own emotions or your own bitterness. That's not okay. Do it for the kids. Do it for your kids. Keep them happy.
Hello everyone, this is Emmanuel Cook. We will be reacting to a new video today, so make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe down below, and let's get into the video.
Know your rights as a parent. I was talking to a mom the other day. She lives in Colorado, and she was trying to pull her child out of school to homeschool him after some issues with their district. And you know what they told her? That she had to wait for their permission to homeschool her child. Let me tell you right now, that is 100% illegal. There is not a single state in the U.S. that is allowed to give you permission to homeschool. You don't need permission to homeschool your children. They are your children. The state does not own them. The school does not own them, and the district does not own them. All you have to do, go to your district website, type in intent to homeschool or homeschool form, you fill it out, you send it in, you're done. You don't even have to go back to the school. Just one day tell your kids to pack up, come home, you're not going back. You don't even have to tell the teacher if you don't want to. You have to tell the district. Most states do require you giving them some form of, hey, guess what, we're homeschooling. Other than that, you're on your own. If you're looking for more information on how to homeschool, what to do to homeschool them, where to find all of your stuff, come join my homeschool village. This is what we do. We coach daily how to pull your kids out, what to teach them, how to teach them, how to socialize them online. We will coach you all the way through, as well as how to do transcripts if your state requires them, how to get them into college, all of the things the parents are worried about. My homeschool village is here to guide you from pulling them out all the way to getting them out of school in 12th grade. So if you're looking how to do that, if you want that help, if you're looking for a community of women that will guide you, support you, and help you all the way through, click the link to come join us.
This is a PSA for all my parents. Stop letting these schools, stop letting these administrations play with your child. Ask for a copy of those parental rights. Find out the process if your baby needs supportive services in the school. Find out how you can request support. Don't allow a school to just tell you one thing without you doing your proper research and validating. You are your child's biggest advocate. No child should be home more than 10 days off of a behavior suspension, and you definitely should be getting paperwork if that's the case. Like, take up for y'all kids, man, because as much as I'm an advocate for the school, the community, and the parent, at the end of the day, right is right and wrong is wrong, and I'm going to always stand on right is right. And as a parent who 4 years ago, a principal sat there and called me every single day to pick up my ADHD child without giving me so much as a resource, a starting point, or anything, that I had to literally leave my job and go and seek all these things by myself and do my own research. And that's, luckily I did that because I'm a social worker, and that's literally what I do. But for these parents who do not know the system, who do not know how to properly research the services that their kids need, man, get on those websites. Get on those district websites. Get on that school website. Research. Advocate for your child. I literally became a school social worker because I hated, loathed, despised the way they did me when my child entered kindergarten with no help, nothing, no advice from a school counselor. I didn't even know they had a school social worker until they wanted to do an address verification. Not resources, not process, nothing. Address verification is why they sent a school social worker out to my house. So if you know your child needs help, advocate for your child. Know the necessary people you need to get in contact with, because there's only so much that I can do, here as to why I got the position that I have. But please, y'all, please know your parental rights.
Here's my thoughts on 50-50 default laws. I'm glad that more states are getting rid of them. It used to be almost every state had them, and that's not the case anymore. Most states don't have that. Because it's not practical. Very, very rarely was a child raised in a household where parents were doing equal amounts of caretaking. And it's very unstable and impractical when those parents split to say that the default should be 50-50 when that's never been the arrangement. It's unstable for a child who had a primary caretaker to now go to being 50% of the time cared for by someone who was far less involved before, and by someone who may not be equipped to care for them 50% of the time because they never did it before. Should a parent be given the opportunity to step it up? Absolutely. But there's no basis for a default, because a 50-50 arrangement isn't really real. I think there should be a default. I mean, there is a default that parents have equal rights. They both have the right to time with their child. They both have the right to make decisions over their child. But the ultimate goal of the court is to order what's in their best interests. And what's best for the child is to reside with their primary caretaker and the person who is shown to be able to care for them. And what's in the best interests of the child should outweigh what the parent's rights are. This goes back to seeing children as people, not property. A parent's right to that child, prioritizing that would be treating the child like property. What should be prioritized is what is the best for the child's health and well-being and ability to grow physically and emotionally.
In the state of Georgia, and you had a child out of wedlock, this video is only for the men. Women, you don't have to get legitimized. But if you don't know who I am Brita G. I am a licensed Alabama attorney, and I teach you the law so the authorities don't have to. Now, today, I won't really be teaching you the law. I'll more so just be interpreting a law that I've read, because I am not a licensed Georgia attorney, so I would never give you legal counsel or advice in that state. However, I do have a few friends that's just been asking me about the legitimation process and what does it mean. So let's go through a few things. First, it only applies to men. If you are a woman, when you pop that baby out, you're the mother, you have rights, and that's the end of that. However, if you are a father, even if your name is on the birth certificate, you do not automatically have rights to that child. Your name being on the birth certificate does not equate to you being legitimized. Legitimization equals parental rights, whereas birth certificate is just you acknowledging and taking ownership for this child. If she later wanted to put you on child support, it would be easier for her to do because you've consented to that. However, you still don't have any rights. So if I was to recommend anything to fathers who are unmet with having children in the state of Georgia, it would be to go through that legitimization process. So you can literally go on self-help forms at the Georgia court, whatever county that you're in. Say, for example, you're in DeKalb County, you can go to DeKalb County's court's website. They have some self-help forms. You can click family law, and they'll have a whole little section that says legitimization, and they'll have a packet that you would complete, pay the filing fee, and file with the court. So once you do this, once you get legitimized, it gives you rights such as custody. You now have custody over the child. It gives you rights such as visitation. It allows a court order to be put in place to say when, where, how you can get the child. Now, if you don't get legitimized, let me tell you what can happen. The mother has all the power. So she can wake up one day and say, oh, I don't want you to see little Jimmy today. I don't want you to see little Tommy. So you have no rights. You can't go to court. You can't say, oh, she's keeping my child from me. You don't have those rights. So my advice to you from interpreting that Georgia law, if I was an unwed father in the state of Georgia, the very first thing I would be doing is going to that website, looking for the legitimation packet, and getting legitimized. The earlier, the better. So let's keep it G. Let's follow the law, and hopefully you never have to come see me.
Did you know that you might not have legal rights over your own child, even if you are their biological parent? I'm Fiduciary, aka the Friendly Family Lawyer, and here's the truth. In England and Wales, only some parents automatically get parental responsibility. Now, parental responsibility is the right to make decisions about your child, such as decisions involving their schooling, their medical care, their travel, or their religion. So, who automatically gets parental responsibility? Well, mothers automatically have parental responsibility and will always have it for their children. Fathers acquire parental responsibility if they are married to the child's mother at the time of the child's birth. Unmarried fathers can acquire parental responsibility, but only if they are on the child's birth certificate, and that applies after the 1st of December 2003, or they can acquire it via a court order or a parental responsibility agreement. If you are an unmarried dad and you're not on your child's birth certificate, you legally have zero say. You might need a parental responsibility agreement or a court order, and it's important not to get caught off guard in a crisis. If you want to know more about your rights, then follow for straight up legal information that every parent in England and Wales needs to know.
Getting parental rights terminated is nowhere near as easy as most people think that it is. Even in a case where dad says, I will sign away my rights, I have no interest in being a parent, that doesn't mean that the judge is going to sign off on some kind of order terminating his parental rights. And the reason why is because of child support. If his parental rights are terminated, then he has no future obligation to pay any child support. And while that may be perfectly fine with you, you may prefer it that way because it gives you the ability to be the kind of mother that you want to be without his interference. But the court doesn't want that, because then there's only you between this child and becoming a ward of the state. So if something were to happen to you and you were unable to provide to that child, there's no dad to turn to, there's no other parent to turn to. So then the state is wholly liable for the care and keeping of that child. And so for that reason, the court is usually going to make sure that both parents continue to maintain their parental rights, at least for the reason that the state wants to continue to see child support being paid. Even in cases where dad has abused or neglected the child or shown that he has no interest in parenting, it doesn't follow that he's then going to have his parental rights terminated. It just doesn't.
So the Parents' Bill of Rights is actually like an active proposed bill. I think it's passed the House, but not the Senate. It has also been incorporated, or like variations of it, on different state levels. And there are some things that I approve of in the Parents' Bill of Rights. Like, I believe parents have a right to know when their child is below grade level in reading. I think parents have a right to know what our curriculum is. I think parents have a right to be notified when standards or curriculum goes through like major changes. But there are other things in the Parent Bill of Rights that are really harmful. Some of them are well-intentioned, like parents have the right to know, what books kids have access to in the library or classroom. I love that idea. However, if I'm at like Barnes & Noble and I see a book that I think would be so meaningful for my students, I want to pick it up and throw it in my classroom library. It would be ridiculous for me to have to send like a parent email every time summarizing that book. Like, that's just really impractical. And so my fear is that by incorporating something like that into the law, like, we're going to be limiting children's access to books and new releases, which is awful. Kids get so excited about new books. Every kid loves the Scholastic Book Fair. There are some things that are not very well intentioned, like parents have the right to know if a child comes out to their teacher or requests to go by a different name or pronouns. Within that bill, parents should have the right to know if other children in the building or on their sports teams are transgender. I disagree with that. Now, the issue that I have with this bill is it's not just that parents have the right to know about, curriculum and what's going on in schools. I think all parents have the right to know these things. It's where is the line with how much parents can control and contest it. And don't get me wrong, any parent should be able to voice any concern, even if I disagree with it, directly to the teacher, to the school board. But how much power are we really giving parents? Because what we are seeing happen in places that have already incorporated these laws and similar ones is that parents are using this to enforce extremist beliefs across schools. So if we have parents coming to school board meetings or emailing school being like, I told you I don't want you teaching evolution to my kid. Well, in this law, it says that parents have to be outright heard and respected by the schools with their concerns. So what does that mean? Does that mean that we have to then stop teaching evolution? Where's the limit? What's the line? I have had children who have had gay parents in my class before. If I have parents coming to me being like, I don't want my kid knowing about gay people, okay, well, does that mean that my other student in this class can't share what they did over the weekend with their two dads? In the law, it says that educators have to consider and potentially implement the feedback of parents into their curriculum. That doesn't sound unreasonable to reasonable people because they're not the ones taking advantage of that law. But this law is not just for reasonable people. It's for everybody. It's for parents who have no idea what they're talking about when it comes to the science of reading or how to teach reading or basic math skills, but who are coming into elementary schools and telling the teachers who have degrees in education, who are experts in this field, that they're doing their job wrong. It is the people who don't want their kids learning about any other population or demographic other than their own core family, and they don't want kids learning that gay people exist or that other religions exist or that evolution occurred. There are people who don't think that our children should be learning about our nation's history, our history which impacts the daily life of Americans and our active government today. That is why this bill is dangerous.
A quick reminder, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe down below, and let's continue the video.
Let's talk about parental rights. No, you don't have to sit in a meeting with everybody's camera off. That's not the law, the rule, state code in Michigan, Maryland, Texas. Let's stop lying to parents. And number two, no, you're not only allowed to have a meeting by phone. So you are allowed to have a virtual meeting by Teams, Zoom, Google Meets, whatever. That is your right. And almost every state is doing all mediations, all state filings, OCR mediations via Zoom or virtual platforms. Make sure you know your rights and invoke them.
Okay, so I don't know how y'all gonna feel about me saying this, but I'm gonna just go ahead and say it. Men, brothers, baby daddies, ex-husbands, etc. Y'all need to take these women to court before they take you to court. Period, point blank. Y'all know I'm all about the kids. Ever since I became a mother, I've been all about the kids. And I remember when I was younger, because I grew up in a household with my mom was a baby mama. Her and my dad was never really married. But I remember seeing certain things. And I remember at a certain point in time, my daddy took my mama to court. He wasn't paying no child support, but he took her to court for partial custody. These kids are really losing out because dads are not in the home, because they don't know what it's like to have a relationship with a man, because they don't know what it's like to have a relationship with the number one man that they should have a relationship with. You can say whatever you want to say about the guy. If he's not sexually, physically, emotionally, psychologically abusive, there is no reason for you to be fighting so hard to protect and keep your child from him. So men, I'm putting the battery in y'all back. It's time for y'all to start going to court. If you gonna pay child support, pay child support. That's fine. See if there's any kind of way that the type of child support you pay goes maybe directly towards the bill, so it's not going directly towards the woman if you're concerned about how she gonna spend the money. 2, get partial custody. As soon as that child come in the world, maybe even before they come in the world, there's a way that she can have a DNA test done while she's still pregnant. If she doesn't want to do that, it's too invasive, that's fine. I was against it too. When that child come out, before you sign that birth certificate, get the DNA test, make sure it's your baby. And then go to court, establish paternity, and also get your rights. You should be able to see your child when you want to see your child. It shouldn't be about, oh, she mad at me this week. Oh, I didn't pay no money, so I can't see my child. Y'all, it's time to stand up for these kids. It's time for them to have a mother and a father. It's time to do the right thing. If you are trying your hardest and you about something, go to court. You can call, matter of fact, call family courts, whatever county you stay in, whatever city you stay in, the state you stay in. Call different attorneys and ask them, what would you do? How would you represent me? And then represent yourself. My daddy did it. After serving time in prison, you can do it too, black men. Men of color. Men who ain't of no kind of color. It don't matter. Fight for your rights and your children's rights.
It is crucial. Kids need their fathers. And if they are not a harm to that child, then the father should be in that child's life. It's very crucial. You need 2 parents. 2 of them. Not just 1, but 2. So I actually agree with her.
Oh, stop. Stop signing over your parental rights every single year. If you don't want your children learning what the public school system is teaching, you have a right and a duty as a parent to take immediate action. Feel free to advocate for a better system, but protect your children in the process. No other human on this earth cares more about your child than you do.
Poll question, food for thought. If children reside with a custodial parent and visit the non-custodial parent, say, every other weekend, and the children are sick one of those weekends, should they stay home? Poll question number 2, if non-custodial parent opts not to take the children because they're sick, was that the right choice because the children were sick, and do they deserve a makeup visit, or did that parent cancel their visit, thus forfeiting it? I had this scenario come up in court today. Obviously, it changed the facts a little bit, but kids were sick, missed a visit with a non-custodial parent, and now we were debating if there should be a makeup. And the court said, well, if they're sick, they should stay home, and that parent should get a makeup. But if the parent cancels, they don't get a makeup. Well, in this situation, it's kind of both. If a parent cancels because the kids are sick, does this or does this not qualify as a makeup visit? Qualify for a makeup visit? Obviously, non-custodial parent's attorney is arguing that they should get a makeup because the kids are sick. My personal opinion, and I'll start with this. My personal opinion is the custodial parent doesn't get to just waive having the kids when they're sick. The custodial parent has to parent the kids. And if you're a non-custodial parent seeking to be involved in your children's lives and to parent them, you got to do the bad parts of parenting too. Now, in these cases, my personal opinion doesn't matter because my job is to advocate for what the kids want. So if they have a position on if there's a makeup or not, I'm advocating for whatever that position is. But I was a little surprised that the thought from both the court and the non-custodial parent seemed to be that they should just stay home and do a makeup. Personally, I don't think you get to just waive parenting when it's tough.
So this is an interesting question because it sounds reasonable at first glance until you stop and think about it. Hi, I'm Florence Ashley. I'm a law professor at the University of Alberta in Canada. So why is it odd for parents to expect rights when they are expected to live up to parental responsibilities? And the answer is because, well, responsibilities by and large don't come with rights. The clearest comparison here is what we call fiduciary responsibility or fiduciary obligations. So like a lawyer has to act in your best interest. Same thing if you have, somebody who has what we call power of attorney over you, that is somebody who has a fiduciary relationship with you, and they have to act in your best interest, and they don't get actually any rights towards you. I mean, they get the right to ask for you for money as part of what makes them a fiduciary in some context. So like for the lawyer, but not necessarily for the power of attorney. But the general idea is that it doesn't actually come with rights towards you. It comes with responsibility. Now they might be able to exercise your rights towards somebody else, but not against you. They have to act purely in your best interest. They do not have any rights towards you. And that's kind of the standard for fiduciary obligations, which is precisely what parents have. And while it is a pretty big category and one that is omnipresent in our lives, contracts are more or less the kind of one big example where you will actually get a right in exchange for your responsibilities, or what we call an obligation. But that's not by virtue of what makes an obligation. In fact, in an obligation, the person with the right is usually the person on the receiving end, right? You have an obligation towards somebody who has a right. No, the reason why undertaking a contractual obligation gives you some rights is because it is a contract. Contracts are conceived as this kind of business/monetary thing where you get something in exchange for something else. And so by accepting to get a new obligation towards a random person you have no prior relationship to, no prior legal linkage to, then, you won't agree to that unless they give you a right and they get an obligation towards you. But that's not the case with parenting. In fact, not the case for what I would argue are most rights and obligation arise outside of a contractual relationship. So really, when we're talking about parenting, it would in fact be odd to expect parents to get rights, especially towards the children, simply by virtue of the fact they have parental responsibilities, especially since, and let us remember, the children never consented to having that obligation towards the parents having that right. They were born, nobody asked them, and versus the fact that most of the time, or hopefully most of the time, you knew full well that by becoming a parent you would undertake a bunch of responsibilities towards that kid. So there's this one-sided relationship that is very characteristic of fiduciary relationship and certainly not very characteristic of contractual ones. Where's the contract? So it would in fact be quite odd for parents to expect rights towards their children in exchange for the parental responsibilities. This is not, becoming a parent is not something you do for the benefit of getting rights. It's something you do out of the love of your heart, or, well, one would expect out of the love of your heart, or if not, at least out of a sense of obligation.
I just got this card in the mail from my congressman about the Parents' Bill of Rights. As a parent and a lawyer with experience in education law, I thought I'd check it out. First things first, there's nothing in the enumerated powers that gives Congress the authority to regulate education on a local level. They can use the spending power to take away education funding from certain states, but what about states' rights? Can you imagine if the Democrats proposed a bill that would take away education funding based on some vague, arbitrary set of rules? Republicans would be screaming about government overreach. That's right, I said vague and arbitrary. Now there's two versions of this Parents' Bill of Rights, one in the House, one in the Senate, and they're both available online if you want to read them for yourself. The sponsors of these bills say they're necessary to promote transparency in public education. Just how big of an issue is transparency in public education? Well, every single state and the District of Columbia already have Department of Education websites where you can access curriculum information, budget information, teacher credentials. And if you can't find what you're looking for online, there are already public records request laws in place where you can write to your local school district requesting public information, and they have to respond to you. You're not going to convince me that there's a concerted effort to hide what's going on in our public schools. Almost every single educator I know is literally begging parents, please read your child's assignments, please come to parent-teacher conferences, please be involved in your child's education. So transparency isn't really the issue, is it? But Republicans want to make it the issue to distract from the fact that our public schools are failing because of chronic underfunding and systemic issues outside the school system that are keeping children from performing at their best. What concerns me most about the Parents' Bill of Rights isn't necessarily what's in it, but how it fits into this broader Republican plan that's developing around education. Step 1. Use the Parents' Bill of Rights and other non-issues to gaslight voters into thinking that Republicans care about education and Democrats don't. Step 2. Continue to fuel the fire of anti-intellectualism. A growing percentage of educated voters are leaning left. So from a Republican perspective, why try to reach out to those educated voters when you could just have fewer educated voters? Step 3. Slowly overburden and underfund our public school system until we have no choice but to privatize. If you're like me and don't like that plan, consider reaching out to your elected officials and saying, instead of a Parents' Bill of Rights, how about the right to access public education starting at age 3 at a safe, well-funded school where the teachers and staff are adequately compensated for the work that they do?
Termination of parental rights. So, this does not happen often, but there are some severe cases in which a parent can lose all parental rights permanently. Examples of this can include severe physical abuse, severe sexual abuse, or severe drug abuse to the point where they are harming the child. Once a parent's rights have been terminated, they cannot get them back no matter what. And this is why it's so unlikely to happen. The courts usually believe that it's within the child's best interest if both parents are in their life. So if there is a chance that one parent can get their act together and better themselves for the child, then they want to leave that door open.
You can lose custody if you alienate your children from the other parent, whether you intend to or not. And here's why. Yes, you have rights as a parent to co-parent your child or to parent your child. So does other parents. But even bigger than that is your child has the right to be parented by both parents. Your child has the right to get to know and have a relationship with both parents. If it's a bad parent, they have a right to know that they have a bad parent. And so when the court is sitting here wondering what is going to be in the best interest, not only are they considering your right to parent, they're also considering your child's right to be parented by both of you. So when you have a parental alienation situation where all of a sudden your child no longer wants to see you, has some sort of totally weird opinion on what you are, and all of that, has huge meltdowns when visitation comes or just flat out refuses, it could be a parental alienation situation, and you can go into court and try and get it changed, modified, or do something so that you can continue to have your rights as a parent and your child can continue to have their rights as a child to be parented by you.
This right here happens literally all the time, especially to fathers. A lot of the moms have all of this hate towards the fathers and alienate the fathers from seeing the children. And this is totally wrong. Kids need to see their fathers. And I see it literally all the time. And it's a really sad thing, you know?
So the reason that my mom did not tell me about my biological dad is because she did not want me feeling ostracized. She did not want me feeling different than my siblings. But those are feelings that she couldn't have stopped anyway because I was already the black sheep of the family. I've always felt that way. I consider myself to be the black sheep of the family to this day. Also, there was domestic violence there. So like you have to tread lightly with those type of situations. Like our household was already dangerous enough as is to be in, and I was the type of child that I would have been like in a heartbeat, well, you're not my real dad. So as far as being like shocked that my biological dad was not a great person, it's because when I initially had the conversation with my mom, she was like, you know, he was a cool dude, he's very nice, he was kind, was funny, and he was a musician. I am somebody personally that has had a deep connection with music, and I always wanted to play like all of these instruments. He was a drummer, I think he was a guitarist, and my dad that raised me, he didn't have that musical connection, and my mom really didn't either. So that's where I feel like that came from. So out of curiosity, you're gonna want to know where you come from. Most people are, even if the father is absentee. But I was told he was a pretty good person. It wasn't until I had my first conversation with him when I met my biological sister. She had come over to my apartment, giving me the phone because he had called and wanted to speak to me, that he said all of these, you know, nasty things to me about my sexuality. And then came the time, I want to say maybe a year into me not getting to know him per se, but like us being aware of each other. I had reached out to him because me and my ex were about to be evicted from our apartment and we needed a certain amount of money. He literally told me on the phone, I would do it if you weren't living this lifestyle or if you were living with a woman. And so I got evicted because of that. And that eviction, you know, had messed me up for about 6 or 7 years. So that's one of the things, like, I wasn't expecting that. So yeah, when you're told that somebody was a pretty decent person and they show you otherwise, then you're gonna be a little taken aback. Also, every absentee father or absentee mother situation is different, and that person may have been a horrible person when they got with the other parent, and then, you know, X amount of years later, they're a completely different person. So people reach out for all sorts of reasons.
Having an equal partner in raising your children is really the best. My husband just left for a work trip today, and I'm home with our 2 kids, pregnant with our third. And tonight he was already texting me about like reminding me that she has gym class on Tuesday, so she'll need her sneakers, and texting me like what the school lunch options are for this week. Like he had gone in and read the newsletter or whatever and was like relaying this information to me. But not only that, he also knew, he's known for weeks and put into our family calendar that tonight was the night we had to sign up for summer camp. And this was something that he could have just been like, oh babe, you need to do this, like I'm gonna be off on this work trip. But no, he like even specifically told the guy that he's with, like, I have to be back in my room at this time to do this. And so like tonight he went onto the site, he created the wish list of all the weeks that we wanted, preloaded our credit card, preloaded our daughter's information, all of that stuff. So all I had to do was jump on a call with him, and we kind of tag teamed the weeks that we wanted to sign her up for. If you know, you know, summer camp signups are no joke. But we wanted to make sure we got the ones we wanted before they all filled up. And now obviously this isn't rocket science. This isn't like some hard, difficult task that he did, but it's just the fact that I didn't have to think about this. It was something that he, on the plate of what is required for parenthood, he took that task along with many other tasks that he does without me having to be like, hey babe, I need you to go like look this stuff up, do this stuff, get this stuff ready for it. No, he just took control of it. He did everything. So all I had to do was just be there to actually sign up for the weeks that we wanted. And if he knew I was making this video, he would probably be embarrassed, because to him it's like it's just being a parent, which is like, yes it is, but I know that that is like not always the norm, and it's sometimes this like novel idea, especially for older generations, where unfortunately more often than not the father wasn't always as involved and didn't really do any of the tasks or take on any of the mental load required with raising children or keeping your home nice or anything. And again, I'm not saying that he deserves some type of reward or award for simply being a parent, because as us moms know, we don't get any type of reward for doing the things required to be a mom and take care of our children. But at the same time, I still feel grateful that he's a good dad, which I'm sure he feels grateful that I'm a good mom. And it's nice that we both share the load and the tasks required in being a parent. And even though it wasn't a difficult task to do, I still appreciate him for doing that, just like I know he appreciates me for doing things that I do as a mom to take care of our kids.
I appreciate you guys watching the video today. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.